Now I got a special guest that I have looked forward to having on my show, and this person is running for let me get it out a school board. Am I right?
That's
In the
correct.
person of Kendall Bradshaw. Welcome. How are you?
I am well. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
And thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Before we get into it, tell us a little bit about Kendall Bradshaw.
Well, I am a native of Portsmouth.
Mm-hmm.
I have raised my family here. I have two children, both of which graduated from Portsmouth Public Schools.
Mm-hmm.
I was a teacher here in Portsmouth, but before I did that, I was a probation and parole officer in Suffolk. I
Really?
got my degree in criminal justice, and I went to work for
Mm-hmm.
Suffolk Probation and Parole. And for after I got that job, of course, I'm doing pre-sentence reports for the court, and I noticed that most of the people that I was working with did not have an education, or
Mm.
not a lot of education, and
Right.
that prompted me after a while to go back to school and get my teaching certificate with the Career Switcher program at Old Dominion University. Um, and then I got my job at what is now Waterview. It was John Tyler back then, but it's Waterview now.
Mm-hmm.
And there I was a leader in the school for 15 of the 16 years that I taught there. My
Mm-hmm.
kids went to school there as well. Um, and I retired in 2020. And I've been a realtor for 11 years, and that's what I'm doing now. But uh,
Mm-hmm.
during the course of working of retirement, after I retired, I still stayed in the schools with my business. I would go um, and volunteer, and I would go and take lunches to the teachers and
Mm-hmm.
give the kids things. And so my heart has always been with the students there, um, not just at Waterview, but in Portsmouth.
Right.
And so that's what I've been doing up to this point. So
Mm-hmm.
it made me want to become an even more integral part of the system. And I thought maybe somebody who had been a teacher and somebody who had had their own
Mm-hmm.
children graduate from that same system would be a good voice to have on the school board. So that's why I'm running.
Well, it makes sense to me. Uh, um, Besides being a full time musician, I was a school crossing guard in Norfolk for 12 years. So I see firsthand a lot of stuff that schools and teachers and students and parents and they don't just keep it on the inside. They talk about it when they're coming out and huddle together. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, they
Sometimes they'll
do.
stand up for a whole hour or two discussing the intricacies of whatever's going on in that school at that time.
Right.
What you were talking about the learning curve. Um, what can be done about that?
Well, there are a lot of different things that can be done, but our most critical need right now is reading.
Hmm.
While I was a teacher at Waterview, I also got my master's in reading. Um, and I understand that, when students aren't particularly interested in reading, but it is our job and incumbent upon us to make sure that they can read and
Hmm.
and to foster in them the enjoyment of reading so
Hmm.
that they will. And a lot of them don't like to read because they don't read well.
Right.
Um, we are currently in a crisis with that particular item. Um, our kids just aren't reading at the level that they need to read in order to
Hmm.
be successful. During the course of my teaching, when I first started, let's say year one of my 16 years, on that first year, I
Hmm.
might have the majority of my students were on level. I might have maybe 40% that were a grade below, and then a smattering that would be below that. And
Hmm.
most of those were special ed needs kids.
Right.
However, when I retired, it just gradually went down and down and down. When I retired, most of my students were on a third grade level, not a fifth grade level, which is where I was
Hmm.
teaching. And we had students who were at a kindergarten or below kindergarten reading level in special ed. And we had in there, and some of them weren't in special ed. So
Hmm.
it has
Hmm.
just exponentially gotten worse. And with the pandemic, which created a whole number of problems,
Right.
that just exacerbated the issue with regard to reading. So we have got to get in there and really, really help these students from the very first time they enter that building. And I'm talking preschool, kindergarten, in order to get them learning with phonics and excitement about reading, and so that when they get to the grade level that they're supposed to be in, that they're on that level and can be successful. And that's why accreditation is an issue in Portsmouth as well. We have 9 schools that are accredited with warning,
Hmm.
um, and that's alarming to me. I mean, there was a time when we were all fully accredited, and I know some things have changed and that it's a little harder to get accreditation, but it's incumbent on us to do something about that, to make sure that the students in Portsmouth Public Schools get a world-class education. And that really does start with reading.
Wh- it seems to me, what do you think can be done to get? Okay, I'm not dissing the teachers that we have, but the school system in itself, is it attractive enough to get good teachers, to get people who would be good teachers, or is it is the salary low where they say I'm going to go into the private sector or go into the corporate sector instead of staying and teaching?
Well, all of what you just said is true and not true. So let me tell you
Hmm.
what's true. What's true is
Okay.
that the teachers who are here are good teachers. I've worked with some of
Hmm.
the finest teachers that you could possibly know, and a lot of them stayed in Portsmouth because of their loyalty to Portsmouth and their loyalty to the kids. But there comes a time that you have to feed your own family, and
Hmm.
Portsmouth did not stay current with salary with regard to the area. What
Okay.
is positive is that they did a study, income study, and or pay study, and the city council is helping to get us where we need to be at this
Hmm.
point. Now, of course, that
Hmm.
will depend on who gets in city council as well with this election. But so far, we have been able to let the city council, who funds the school board or the
Right.
school, to know the importance of our schools in our city. So one of the top things is accreditation for my platform, but the other one is
Hmm.
teacher pay, because they have never kept up with cost of living. They've never kept up with the step program, in your salary being on a certain step. They've not kept up with that. But the new study that they did, um, which I would propose that we adopt and continue, would put everybody on the correct step, and that would also yearly be evaluated. It doesn't address cost of living, but I would
Hmm.
encourage that we do that. But we have to retain those wonderful teachers that we do have, and the only way to
Hmm.
do that is to pay them.
Right.
But
Right.
and without a doubt, that is the number one thing. But I also want to make sure that everyone understands that it's not just about pay. It's
Right.
about it's about the work environment as well. Um, Teachers are asked to do more and more and more every year,
Hmm.
and it is an overwhelming task.
Hmm.
And it has burnt out more than a few teachers, and a lot of
Right.
teachers have not gone to other districts. A lot of teachers have left the profession altogether,
Right.
because no matter where they went, those demands on their time were so egregious. I mean, they would stay late, they would come in early, their families would suffer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not something that they could sustain, and they could have the same amount of pay or more if
Mm-hmm.
going to work somewhere else. And and the skills that you have as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
frankly, they're you can do lots of other things with those
Right.
skills. And and they do. They hate leaving the kids. They got into teaching because they love to teach. But there's sometimes when I hear teachers talk about that, you just can't teach like you want to because of all of the demands that are on their time. So the other thing that I want to encourage the schools to do is to look at that uh, emotional aspect and how
Mm-hmm.
they can create an environment that is workable for these teachers, not just their pay, but their mental
Right.
health as well. Because you don't want a teacher who's having to deal with a myriad of problems,
Right.
behavior issues, academic issues, um, issues with parents, issues with faculty staff. You don't want somebody who's dealing with all of that all at the same time, uh, to not be healthy mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be another focus. So
Mm-hmm.
it's money and mental health of teachers that concerns me, and that I want to make sure that we address on the board and through our school system.
Do you feel that discipline is under control in the schools?
I believe we can have better control over discipline. Um,
Okay.
I don't think that students need to be suspended every time that they get in trouble. I
Mm-hmm.
don't believe in that. But
Okay.
there are times that students do need to be suspended for, and that's usually in case of violence and
Right.
of that nature. I would like to see the repeat offenders, those that repeat a violent act, that they be um, put in an alternative school so that the
Mm-hmm.
students
Mm-hmm.
in the school that they're in can have
Right.
peace of mind. Because sometimes
Okay.
I think that we forget about, you know, little Jasmine in the corner who's
Mm-hmm.
shy and just came to get an education, and she's dealt with a whole lot of drama all day,
Mm-hmm.
violence and just ugliness in the classroom,
Mm-hmm.
and that affects her education as well. So we have to make sure that we're trying to do what's best for all of our students, not
Right.
just the students. We don't want to over punish, and we don't want to we want to make sure that students understand that there are rules in the school and that they
Mm-hmm.
need to be followed. And if those rules aren't followed, then it becomes chaotic, and
Right.
teachers can't teach and students can't learn. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so we need to say what we mean and mean what we say.
Okay. What about the liaison between parents and teachers? And I mean, today you have in some schools you have a liaison between the parents and
We
teachers.
do.
Um, how's that working? And does it need improving, or is it good? What are your
I
thoughts
think
on
it's
it?
good because most of the time, my experience with the liaisons is that they're extremely positive with the parents, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of those are about special events for the students and the parents and the in
Mm-hmm.
the community. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the more that we can communicate, and that's one form of communication. The
Okay.
other form is direct from parent to teacher. A lot of times, parents won't even talk to the teacher, and they'll go to the principal or to the superintendent before they've even talked to the teacher about the
Right.
problem. And
Right.
there's a chain that you should go through in order to understand what's going on in the classroom. So
Mm-hmm.
teachers and parents need to have open communication, and they do have some outlets for that.
Right. Right.
That they use apps and so forth, and some of that's good, but old fashioned picking up the phone and calling sometimes is really what's needed. But as far as the liaisons, most of the liaisons that I've come in contact with are doing a fantastic job reaching out to the community. But I think our biggest problems are with just communication about the academics and behaviors in the classroom. So we need to step that up a little.
Okay. When talking about problems, what is the most positive thing that's already in the public schools that you would like to improve on?
Um, I I would like to make sure that we do not drop the ball on the arts programs in
Okay.
school and on the sports get a lot of attention, and I think they
Yeah.
should. You know, my kids were super involved in sports when they were in school, and
Hmm.
it's wonderful. But I want to make sure that we don't forget the small clubs. You know, if there's a chess club or a debate club
Hmm.
or a
Hmm.
drama club, the choruses, the bands, these are an integral part of keeping students in the classroom.
Right.
One of the things that happens is when they get into ninth, 10th grade, which is the age at which they're able to withdraw and drop out, that they're not enfranchised anywhere. They haven't found their place. They haven't found something that made them want to stay in school. And
Hmm.
that's the critical time is in that upper elementary, middle school time is to help those kids find something that will keep them in school and keep them
Right.
excited about going to school. So I want to make sure
Hmm.
we don't drop the ball on that and make sure that we fund those arts programs fully.
Good. Well, to me, this is the most important question. And based on your knowledge and your observation, is our students safe in Portsmouth schools? Are they safe?
I think they're safe. I think they can be safer. One of the things
How
that
so?
I'm running on as well is safe schools.
Hmm.
Um, as somebody who has a degree in criminal justice and worked
Hmm.
in that field, um, and also had kids and taught in the school, there were uh, safety not only comes from the outside. A lot of times we think of the things like Sandy Hook and the awful tragedies like that, and there are things we can do as our system to help prevent something like that. Our detectors are good. They do a great job in the high schools um, to detect anything that might be on a student, and they do a great
Hmm.
job at the door. I do
Right.
think we need more resource officers at the elementary level. I don't think that the
Hmm.
school system understands the dangers at that level that actually exist. So I would like to put
Hmm.
more resources at the elementary level
Hmm.
and middle school level to
Right.
ward off some problems. But we also have the violence that comes from within the school as well. So those resource officers can respond to anything that might happen inside the school. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I think that we are handling it well, but if we think that we couldn't have a Sandy Hook in Portsmouth,
Hmm.
um, we might be kidding ourselves. We need to make
Right.
sure that we're vigilant about the building safety, about how many resource officers we have on hand, and that we are addressing the repetitive behavior issues in the schools at the time.
What's your opinion on metal detectors at every door in school?
100%
Too much?
every
Huh?
in the well, most schools are set up so that outside personnel only come in through the front door,
Right.
okay, through the main entrance.
Hmm.
So as long as we have them there, but also as long as we make sure that the other doors are locked and that everyone knows not to let anyone in. I don't think we need one at every single exit and entrance, but we definitely need them at the front entrance where the public would be accessing the building.
Okay. If you bear with me, my social producer wanted a question. What was the question?
About the student that shot this teacher.
The student that shot the teacher.
Yeah, the
What about it?
6 year old.
Okay, the
So
six
how
years
do you
old.
prevent the kids from bringing in weapons in school?
How do you prevent kids from bringing in weapons
That's
in
what I'm
school?
talking about with regard
Yeah.
to from within the building itself. The
Hmm.
students, what they're doing now is it's going to be difficult no matter what we do. In order
Hmm.
to put every student through that metal detector who walks in that door, it would take till midday to get everybody through that door. Um,
Uh-huh.
and so that is a logistical problem. What if they use now for that kind of situation is the see something, say something. Well, we
Okay.
can't always rely on that. It does good work. I mean, and if we train our kids to do that kind of thing, most of the time they do. But there are things that slip through, and
Right.
we need to investigate how best to prevent that. As far as you know, me knowing exactly what that is and how we can do it. That program that I just mentioned is one. If you find that students, sometimes there are a lot of signs, and in the case of that Newport News teacher
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
student, there were a
Hmm.
lot of signs, and if we would pay attention to those signs,
Hmm.
we wouldn't have that problem as often.
Right.
And that's one of the things when I kept talking about the repetitive behaviors. Repetitive behaviors are just that. You can predict future behavior by past behavior. And if a student is refusing to cooperate, is constantly in fights, is seen as a danger by the other students, then
Hmm.
the adults need to pay attention to that.
Okay. As we wrap it up, I'm going to give you the total floor and just say whatever you want, take it wherever you want, non-interrupted.
Oh,
Uh, put no, yeah. I don't do like the other ones. No, no, and it won't be edited. I'm going to send you a copy of this. I mean, the show's edited, but this, interview, it will not be edited, and I
okay.
will send you a copy of it in a couple of days. So say what you want to say, and it's all yours.
Well, thank you.
Hmm.
Um, I've had it on my heart to run for school board for a while.
Hmm.
And it's because it's been a while since we've had a teacher on the board that's had the kind of experience that I've had in the classroom. It's been a while since we've had somebody on the board who has students in the system like I have.
Hmm.
Um, I believe that our kids deserve the best. Portsmouth is a wonderful city. I love
Hmm.
Portsmouth. It's my hometown. Um, and as I said in a Civic League meeting the other day, I don't want to make excuses for it anymore. When you talk to people outside of Portsmouth, they often will have a negative view of Portsmouth, but that's not been my experience. My
Hmm.
family's been here for generations, and it's always been good to us. And there's a lot of beauty here, a lot of love here. And if we can all come together, I believe that with a city council that will help to support our schools, because it's incumbent upon our city to have great schools, not just
Hmm.
good schools, but great schools. We're getting ready to bring in a great deal of industry into our area. And because of that, we have to have the infrastructure to support that. And one of the biggest things is schools.
Right.
As a realtor, one of the first questions that families ask me are, how are the schools? And because I've worked in them, of course, I know a lot about the schools and the surrounding schools.
Right.
But it's hard to give someone a great idea of how Portsmouth can serve their children if we don't have schools that match what we're saying. So
Okay.
we need to bring that accreditation to where it needs to be, which is fully accredited. And that is not going to be an overnight thing. That is going to be
Right.
something that's going to take us years. But as I said, with reading and putting our focus on reading, that can happen because reading affects every other subject. It
Hmm.
affects math, science, you name it. And if math people, they think that the reading people don't give them love, but I
Hmm.
do very much because I taught math too.
Hmm.
And part of math are word problems. And if the students don't understand the word problems, they won't be able to do the arithmetic or the math that goes with that word problem. So we've
Right.
got to start at the basic and grow these kids where they need to be. For the teachers, we need to pay them. These are professionals. They need to be paid like professionals, and they haven't been for years. And
That's
that
right.
they need to be. And if you have gone to school as long as they have, and and do what they do, I honestly challenge people to go into a classroom and try to teach for a day. I had an experience with a former teacher. She hadn't taught in a few years, but she went to sub. It's not even in Portsmouth, but she went to be a sub one day, and she said that was her last day
Mhm.
because it's just changed. There's just a
Right.
lot of stress that happens, and that's from all different, different angles. But we've got to create an environment for the teachers that they want to be here, that they want to stay here. We have a lot of great administrators and a lot of great support staff that can make that happen. I honestly feel like we can do this. We just have to have the right focus. And yes, it will take money. You can't throw money at everything, but this is one place where we need to throw our money so that
Right.
business that comes in here can thrive, so that the students can thrive, so that Portsmouth can be all it wants to be.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm running. I'm running because I have a heart for all of this and for the city, and I just want to see what it is that I can do to make that better.
Well, speaking as a person who's had the opportunity of observing teachers, and I know what you go. I see it. I mean, this is one of those jobs that you can just to see you get out of your car in the morning, and then when you come back out at the end of the day, whenever the end of that day is.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I
And
do.
and
I've
most
known
of us
teachers that have
understand
sat
that.
in their car and just prayed
Yeah,
to make it through the day.
yeah. And I'm just saying that we see it. And most people that I know are behind you all. We live in a world where you can make millions of dollars bouncing a ball, but you better make it shaping a person's mind. And there's just something wrong with that picture, and that's all I got to say. That's all I'm gonna say. But anyway,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
yeah, I appreciate it. If now you don't need an invitation to come back. We're getting closer. If we get closer, if you want some time, just let me know and we'll make it happen.
Will do. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.